welcome to Is This Good? The show where we boldly, conclusively, and scientifically decide what things in this big wide world are good. I'm Matt Austin, and with me as always is production powerhouse Jason Doyle.
Hello.
Hi JD, thanks for coming today. And today's guest is a producer, writer, actor, and comedian. He risked life and limb teaching you what not to do in the series Never Ever Do This at Home, wrote for Canadian sports TV legends Jay and Dan, and if you've ever laughed during an NFL on Fox broadcast, it's probably from the hilarious football-themed sketches written and directed by this guy. He's a former colleague of ours from The Score in Toronto, and this is our first reunion in about a decade, so I'm glad you could all be here. It's Norm Sousa. Norm, welcome to Is This Good?
Oh my God, I need a transcript of that intro just so I can use it as my new bio. I'm going to put it on, I'm going to get a website and then put it on that website.
I want to start here because I don't know if this is a recovered memory, okay? I think this is from before I ever met you.
Oh.
Jay Skeets and I went to a show at Comedy Bar, not surprisingly, Comedy Bar in Toronto.
That's it, yeah.
And am I misremembering that you used to do like a show where the whole premise was you would sit with a guy on stage and you would just talk to each other and try to drink 24 beers in an hour? Am I making that up?
No, you're not making that up. It was my sketch comedy partner. We were in a group called Punch Drysdale, which had it was a big group and then a small. It ended up being just me and this guy Cole Osborne. And it was called Punch Drysdale Drinks at 2-4, and it was a talk show where we drank a case of beer in about 45 minutes. And we only did it a few times because it's like obviously the stupidest thing you could do. And we got, and we wouldn't just drink those. People would come and bring us other drinks. And I think Cole, and I don't know if you'll be upset that I'm telling the story, but I think he peed on his bedroom door twice after that show, and he just was like, I can't do the show anymore. I literally was peeing on my door, and my wife was like, what are you doing? He turned to her and said, you never support anything that I do. Anyway.
I think, not a show for married people to be doing.
No, we did. But at the beginning of that comedy bar, which is for a bunch of writers, probably could have come up with a better name than that. But we did a bunch of weird shows we did a show called Jekyll and Hyde too, where we did a show at 7 p.m. sober, and then we all did mushrooms and tried to do the same show at 11 p.m. And obviously the second show was 3 hours long, and everyone was rambling. The audience is like, "What did I walk into?" But anyway, those drinking and drug shows are way behind me. Now I just drink and do drugs at the privacy of my own home,
and we call that growth.
Yes.
Wait, so is it harder to be funny? Not just drunk, but completely hammered or on drugs? Where's it harder to be funny?
Oh, the mushrooms. You're inadvertently funny. People are laughing at you trying to do your best. The drinking was it's really a trick in producing because we did drink quite a bit of beer or whatever during it, but we had guests to break it up, and we had a guest would come in and chat and we'd have a drink with them, see what they're doing. So it wasn't just two guys on stage chugging beers. And then we usually had a musical guest, so that while that was happening, it was it was so when someone bought a ticket, they were getting music, they were getting a stand-up, they were getting a bit of an interview, and we were just kind of side piece. We also had a guy, I don't know if you remember Tom Green, but Tom Green used to have a guy in the back window. I don't know if he was eating soup or an apple or something, but we had that kind of gag. So, definitely.
Oh, you had a guy eating a plate of nachos, now that I remember.
Yes. That's high level producing right here.
But very thinky.
It was a lot. The drinking show was a lot easier because we kind of we structured the show so it wasn't just yeah, two white dudes like getting sick on stage.
So you seem to have like a penchant for doing things where you're harming yourself, because not only were you in a bit where you were drinking a 2-4 on stage, but you were also on a show that JD reminded me of as we were talking about having you on. Never ever do this at home. So this was on the Discovery Channel in Canada, later on Spike TV in the US. Shout out to Spike TV. What a network. They don't make them like they used to. No women allowed. And the basic premise of the show was you would take household items and whatever the warning label on that product would say not to do, you would do it and see what happens. So this is from the Wikipedia synopsis of the first episode. These are all the things you did. Okay. Yeah. Using fireworks indoors, building a walk-in microwave oven, heating canned goods by placing unopened cans directly on the stove, just like the cowboys used to do, and tossing a propane-filled cooking canister into a fire indoors. So that was all in the first episode. And I guess my question is, were you ever injured doing this?
Oh, yeah. I was immediately just, yes, very badly injured. No, I wasn't ever seriously injured. I never had to like go to the hospital or anything like that. But two incidents happened that were a little weird. One was in season 2, and the first one that happened was we had a remote control full size car,
like the size of a sedan. You mean?
Yeah, it was a sedan that they like rigged so that it was remote controlled. Like
fucking James Bond. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. So we did this bit where I was supposed to drive through a bunch of like chairs and furniture, but I was in the back seat and no one was. This is like, pre-Tesla, I suppose. And while the car was driving, it started to veer off, and I slammed into a tree. And the car's axle broke or something like that, and it like just swerved off. Anyway, I got revenge by the car by like I drove it off a ramp or something like that. And then in season 2, at the intro, there's a thing called a thermic lance. Do you know what a thermic lance is or whatever? It's
no.
Basically, it's just like a huge metal rod that you light on fire that oxygen pushes like through, and it's insanely hot. They use it to cut railroad track, and I swung it around, and I like accidentally like did a loop with it, and a piece of molten metal landed on the top of my head.
Oh my God.
And I felt like a pebble, and I went, "Oh God." And I got it out, and then I was like, "Oh, don't worry, guys, I'm fine." And then I pulled out basically the biggest chunk of hair. I had a huge bald spot in the middle of my head. But yeah, nothing other than the getting into a car accident in which nobody was driving and putting 3,000-degree metal on my head. I was totally fine. But yeah, I got
a second. So this thing is like a flaming sword, basically.
But basically it's metal. The metal gets so hot it cuts metal. You know what I mean? So there's a big metal pipe, and it's turning into molten as oxygen is like feeding the flame in the front. So it's basically like a huge
lightsaber.
It's a big lightsaber, but with a metal. Yeah, it's like crazy dangerous.
And not to be your mom, but why weren't you wearing protective gear?
It was for the. I was wearing goggles. It was for the show's intro, like where it's like slow mo and everything's cool.
Oh, okay.
So I guess I didn't have the full like hazmat suit on or whatever. But yeah, other than that, a couple of other small things. Like we shot it in Bradford and Brantford. Season 1 was in Bradford, and season 2 was in Brantford. And it was like, I don't know if you could swear on the podcast or not, but
yeah, go ahead.
It was fucking freezing cold. Like it was so cold outside. I remember like I got so sick, and we blew up a room, and it was like filled with like bomb dust or whatever, like, and eventually I got like a huge like sinus infection, and I like pulled out like a bag of blood out of my. It was wild. But anyway,
I think the craziest thing about all the shit that you did was that you were on shrooms the whole time.
Oh, that would have been very fun. Let's see what my co-host, this giant elephant, is going to do with this house. No, the show. Well, it was a lot of fun. It was based on a Norwegian show. It got canceled, not canceled, but basically the end of season 2, the house burned down early, like 3 or 4 days early. Because there was like a massive fire. There was a massive fire, and there was 2 fire departments there. Like there was our like special effects team, a fire department, like actor fire department guy who was like our chief, and he had a small crew there. Then there was the actual fire department, and this fire broke out in the house, and they were just like, oh, I'm assuming, like everyone assumed the other people were gonna put it out, and then the house burnt to the ground. We're like, oh no! We had so many more things to do. Anyway.
It was just like, all right, for the final 3 episodes, it's never ever do this in your backyard.
Yeah. Never ever do this in a charred piece of land. Yeah. It was fun.
Well, I'm glad you're alive.
Thank you.
Before we get to the show, some quick housekeeping. We have merch. Go to isthisgoodpod.com to get it. Send us a picture of you wearing it. I'm making a photo album. It's a little empty right now. Join the Is This Good Patreon at patreon.com/isthisgood. Our next live stream is May 25th. So join before then to hang out live with me and JD and your fellow P-Hounds. It's always a lot of fun. This will be the 3rd one we've done. Send topics for future shows to isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. Subscribe on YouTube. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Okay, that's it. Norm, the premise of this show is very simple. And I should add very safe. You're not going to get harmed doing this in any way. I'm going to give you a topic, and you're going to tell me if it's good. Here we go. First topic. Cassandra asks, speaking to your dog in full sentences in public, is this good? So she writes, I was recently out for a stroll when I witnessed a woman talking to her dog. There was a lot of snow on the sidewalk, which made it difficult for me to walk past her. And as she pulled her dog out of my way, she said to it, Bella, you need to share the sidewalk. I realized I, too, am guilty of lecturing my dog instead of giving direct commands. Even though it's mildly bonkers, I do it because I need other people to know I'm aware of how much of an asshat my dog can be. So is it good to speak to your dog in full sentences when a simple command or a leash tug will suffice? P.S. Yay, Canada, you guys rule. I guess, Norm, that includes you. So that's from Cassandra. So, Norm, speaking to your dog in full sentences in public or maybe even in private, is this good?
I think it's very good. I love it, actually. I like to have full conversations with my dog, just like because I think it confuses them. Like we have a pit bull that was rescued during the pandemic. And when we first got her, she was very bad, like very, very bad. And
a bad girl or a bad boy?
Bad girl.
Oh, yeah, bad girl.
Yeah,
bad doggo.
I will say the one thing that is bad. I'll get back to the story about Mia the dog and her miraculous rescue, but I think it's totally fine to talk to your dog. I do it all the time. Will stop and I'll be like, "What are you doing? What do you think you're accomplishing by eating crud?" You know what I mean? And other people can hear it, and that's fine, you know. But I think it's the tone of voice. So, first of all, no one should name their dog Bella. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
agree. Well, what's your dog's name, Norm?
Mia the dog, Mia. But we didn't get the name.
Wait, is the dog part of the name, or?
No, I like to say that her middle name is the dog. Bella, it immediately gets you to a tone of voice that I think is unacceptable to talk to your dog in. That is the baby talk voice. Dog is not a baby. So I think talking to your dog, like, hey, what are you doing? Let the people go or whatever. That's not okay. But if you talk to your dog in like a casual, this is a friend of mine voice, which is, what do you think you're doing, dude? I think that's good. I think baby talk to a dog is bad.
But I also even think, even for a baby, even when talking to a baby, I always like it when people talk to a baby or a toddler in normal voice and not like, Jackson, what are you doing over there, buddy? What are you doing? And just like, hey, buddy, maybe don't pick through your shit and eat the raisins out.
Yeah. Like sometimes the mom, like any dog, even Burger. I don't know if you remember Burger.
How could I forget? How could I forget Burger, dog of you and Renee Paquette, also a guest on this show, Norm?
Wow! Oh my God! Burger, like Mia, when left alone, would do a thing I like to call Papa Roaching the place, which is
okay.
I am like you come back and the place would be fucking trashed, and I just imagine that we closed the door, the dog played Last Resort by Papa Roach and fucking tore the place up. So Mia does that too. She'll just tear the place up. But what I like to do is I like to walk into the house as if I'm like a crime scene investigator, being like, what happened here? What is this? What could have possibly, and the dog is obviously, they're not, I think this happens with kids too. When this is the whole thing. I think baby talk is bad. I think talking in full sentences to pets is good if you're talking to them like a normal person. And I think even talking to kids like they're full-grown adults is also good in the same way, because it confuses them for a hot second. It makes them stop. It makes them think and go like, oh, what is going on? I'm certainly in trouble based on the tone of voice. Because also, like, the baby talked to a dog on like a pathway being like, you need to leave some room. They don't know. The tone of voice is like kind of positive or whimsical. You know what I mean? But if you're like, excuse me, the dog's like, oh no, I've been impolite,
Well, but I think that's kind of the point, right? Because what the dog is reacting to, and I'm no Caesar Milan, but they're reacting to the tone of your voice. So if you're trying to get the dog to move over on a pathway, even if you said, candies and raindrops, but you said it angrily.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't speak English.
You went bonbons, delicious Twix bars. They would know, like, I've done something wrong, and they would pay attention.
Bonbons? What are you?
Bonbons.
Peggy Bundy from Married with Children. Mia was a rescue, and
sorry, just to be clear, this is Mia the dog or Mia your friend?
No, Mia the dog.
Mia the dog. Okay, continue.
Not Mia the actress, Mia Farrow. But basically, Mia was a rescue and was like. Basically, they tried to turn her into like a fighting dog. She's a sweetheart, she never really worked out for her. But she does not get along with other dogs, and we had a hard time walking her. And anyway, we replaced her AC. She had knee surgery and all this stuff, and she was just not very good dog. We took her to an Australian dog trainer. I think he's Australian or from New Zealand, and he basically. With commands, and I do think like what you were saying is with the bonbons thing. It's like I think the tone of voice is maybe something, but they do know words. You know what I mean? They do associate a word with something. So if I said like bonbons, the dog's not going to know what that means. But if I said treat, they know exactly what that means, right? Because they've associated with that. So Mia, we used to do this thing because she was really bad, and she still is bad at just like. She'll just eat like a bee. You know what I mean? Like she'll eat like a. I used to live in Glendale here, and Glendale is like notorious for teenagers just like dumping fast food on the ground. And Mia was just like she just would have to eat it. So we played the Leave It. Everyone knows probably Leave It with the dog, right? So in order to get her to do that, we put like a pile of hot dogs on the ground, and we'd walk by and we'd pull her and say leave it, and then she'd get a treat at the end. And then we do it a few times. Then you grab the pile of hot dogs, you pick it up, and in front of her face, you throw it in the trash.
Wow.
and you say, it like mentally lets them know that they're never going to get that, ever. That they're better off getting the little treat when you tell them to leave it. And eventually, they'll just be like, when you say leave it, they go, well, I'm never going to get this. my owner here is going to throw it in the garbage. I might as well get this small piece of compressed flavored dirt. So
that's it. Wow, that's like their favorite thing though. That's like if I don't know, like I turn the corner, I'm with JD, and there's like a stack of like original pressing David Bowie records or something, and I'm like, oh my god, wow, what a blessing. And JD's like, leave it.
Yeah. And then he gives you a cassette tape of like a David Bowie cover band.
That's right.
Jeez, thanks JD.
Thanks for the Dave Blowy cassette tape.
This is Dave Matthews Band, JD. Those aren't the same thing.
Yeah, crash into me and get over here. Leave it.
That's right. We have David Bowie at home.
JD, you're about as normal guy as they come. Do you talk to your two dogs like in full cutesy sentences?
One of them I do talk in cutesy sentences, just about how wonderful and gorgeous she is, and cute and all that. That's the one I like. The other one I'm not a huge fan of, and so I don't talk to him as much, unfortunately.
Do you think he's upset by that?
Oh yeah. He's
like he's like a beleaguered wife from the 50s. Like, you never talk to me.
Well, here's the thing. This dog we got he's almost 10 now. And I never liked him. Like, he wasn't for me. He's just not my dog. My wife picked him up from the Humane Society for my kids, and I just didn't like him. I just didn't vibe with him, and he didn't vibe with me, and we had an understanding. But then we got this new dog, who I love. Like, I love this dog. And then he sees me loving this dog, and now all of a sudden he wants to ingratiate himself to me. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Desperate.
You had 10 years for that. Yeah, it reeks of desperation.
Thirsty, as they say.
So thirsty. You have no idea. I talk to my dogs, but not, like my mom would talk to our old dog, like full conversations.
Does that still count as talking to yourself, though? Like,
I think that you're talking to the dog, though. Like,
yeah, it's a nice excuse. It's a nice excuse because.
Well, okay, let's get back to Cassandra here. This woman with the dog.
Yeah.
She's not talking to Bella. She's talking to Cassandra.
Right.
She's saying,
yes, you're right.
We got it. It's performative, which is not acceptable. Like, what you're saying is, she's saying, my dog is an idiot and doesn't understand that we have to share the sidewalk, so my apologies.
Right.
That's
so
what
just
you
tug on the leash.
Just say that.
Look at Cassandra in the eyes.
That's right.
And say, I'm sorry about my dog. He's an idiot.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
He's, as you may have noticed, a dog.
But I think if you double down on the conversation, I think it makes it more fun. Where if, let's say, someone is behind me with Bella the dog, and I say, Bella, move, come on, we got to share the sidewalk. And then the person passes, and then they turn around and be like, what were you doing back there? I think if you continue the conversation, it makes it more fun for everybody. So I think if you are going to talk, it has to be not even full sentences. I think it needs to be full conversations, like one-sided conversation. I think the only part it gets crazy is if you start waiting for responses and then answering. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's where it gets crazy. Yeah.
I do have a theory that no dog owners don't admit this, but secretly in their hearts, they all think that one day their dog will say something to them.
Right.
Like. They'll be like, Jasper, blah, blah, and then one day the dog will be like, hi, Mom. It's like, that's why everyone, I don't know if you've seen on like Reels or TikTok or whatever, everyone does this thing where they buy a dog a board and it has all these buttons on it, and the buttons say like, mad, want, play, outside, and then the dog is like, want, play, outside.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sorry, no, I don't believe this for a fucking second. This dog is like, in a Pavlov dog sense of like, you ring the bell, the dog knows it's time for a treat. But I don't think the dog is like actually expressing what we would call human language.
Right, forming sentences.
Yeah, but no. They just associated a certain button with a certain outcome to that button.
Exactly, like treat gets you a treat.
Right.
Okay. So, Norm, we poll people before the show on Twitter, and 55% of people said speaking to your dog in full sentences in public is good. So it was less than I thought, only 55%, but still.
55%. I feel that's low. Yeah.
I know, like 45% of people are just going, sit. I don't know, like stand, play dead. All right, next question. Julio M asks, sharing your body count with your new partner. Is this good? So JD, body count, that's what the kids are calling, I think what we used to call your number. Unless there was there a different expression or word for it in earlier times?
No, the number, right? I was like,
I would just say number.
Hookup number, yeah.
I just think, what's your number? People know that meant, but now people say body count, like you're
body count is worse than.
I don't like that.
I know,
bad.
like you're, like you're an assassin.
Yeah, but hold on. So
I got 12 bodies on this rifle.
The kids are calling it body count.
Yeah. So instead of saying what's your number, they'll be like, what's your body count? Or I got a high body count, or I got a low body count.
Well, that just makes it seem like it's just about the body, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. How many brains have you fucked?
How many personalities have you stuck to your... Anyway, was that the end of the question?
That's the end of the question, Norm. So do you think it's good, sharing your body count with a new partner?
I think it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think...
Go off, King.
Here's the thing. I think if you're... Unless you have picked up something from... somebody's body, I don't
or
think
personality,
or you got picked up a cool quirk of theirs. I don't think it's necessary, and I think it's also. I'm married now, and when I first started dating my now wife, before we slept together, she made me go get an STD test and show her the results. Wow. Yeah, but also I think once that also we were both kind of in the same scene, and we kind of know that the comedy scene in Toronto especially was very incestuous. Everyone kind of hung out with everybody. Everyone kind of hooked up with everybody. Whatever. So it's like I don't want to hear those names. You know what I mean?
Right. But you probably know them then.
Yeah, because
you probably know who it is, right?
Yeah. And if I don't, then what the hell do I care? I think as long as you have like a clean bill of health, and then I don't think it's anyone's business really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Norm, nobody's asking for names.
No, they're
asking
not.
for a number. I just want just a number.
But what is the number? Is a high number good or is a low?
I don't even know.
Norm's like, is this like golf where a low number is, or
is it
basketball?
Yeah, is this basketball? Do you want to have the highest possible number? And I think I was like 1920s basketball, right? Very slow pace, not a lot of numbers being put up on the board. JD is like space and pace, 3-point shot era NBA. He's well into the hundreds.
I thought you were saying 1920. I thought you were giving me your body count. Because hold on, I think it's based on your personality too. Because I think a higher number is good. Because
for you, because that means you're a sick, cool bro.
That's right. But at least the other person, if someone was like, if I went on a date with somebody, don't tell my wife, and I was like, hey, what's your number? Or what the kids are calling is, how many fucking people have you shot with your cum? Like your body count? If I were on a date with somebody and I was like, how many people you slept with? And they said like 2, I'd be like, oh my God, no way. I'm not, if they said 1, I'd be like, I can't hook up with this. That's bizarre. If someone was at, let's say someone is 35, 40 and they've only slept with 1 or 2 people, I'd be like, what have you been doing? Like, you're clearly not a very cool person, Like, I don't know. I think it's bad.
The reason that this is a question is because for a lot of people, and I would say men more specifically, if they hear that I guess this is a more heterosexual thing, but if they hear that the woman that they're with has slept with a lot of people, there are some men that will fucking freak out and not want to date that person or be with that person because they think that the woman is of loose morals, shall we say.
Yeah, but then if they had an opportunity to hook up with a porn star, they would do it in a second. Right? And they've slept with hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah.
Well, then they say, well, yeah, man, but I'm not marrying her. You know, she's not wife material. So,
well, first of all, that's totally insane. You would marry them in a second, you fucking loser. Yeah. You would. Like, whoever that person is. Marriage material. Like, anyway, anytime someone's like, oh, it's not like when you bring your partner first to your parents, they care about the body count. Or they can tell.
Imagine your parents.
Oh, really? Nice to meet you, Jessica. How many people have you fucked? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think that having a lower number is worse than having a high number.
Okay, that's honestly an interesting perspective. I don't think that is the same as most people, but I do appreciate the perspective. JD, in your relationship, did you exchange body count numbers with Rachel?
Yeah, I believe yes, we did. And it was just in the spirit of transparency, you know, this is a part of my past, this is part of your past. She could have said 1,000, it wouldn't have made a difference. She could have said 1, it wouldn't have made a difference. So, you know, and the same for me, I would imagine, I would hope, but,
was it before or after you guys? Before. You guys consummated.
Oh, they've never.
We're still waiting. Still waiting for that STD test to come in.
Yeah.
I don't actually remember. I think it was after, though. After.
Okay.
So you had to do the math. So you were like, okay, that number plus 1.
You're 580, baby. No.
Like bells start going off. Like you're 1,000th customer. Congratulations.
But it also is like as if like the sex was really bad. You lean over and be like, so how many people have you done this with? You really need some practice.
I once found a girl I was dating's list. Like she had written it out on paper with I must say beautiful penmanship. And
you read her diary.
Yeah, so it had a little lock on it, but I got through that pretty quick. I used one of those flaming swords that Norm gave me.
That's funny.
And I remember she was at work. I was studying for the bar exam at the time, so she was working. I was at home studying, and I was just like cleaning papers off a desk. Off the dining room table, and it was like 1, Michael, 2, Chris, 3, and I was like, that's interesting. All these names are men, and they're all numbered. This couldn't be a list of everyone she's slept with.
What is it? It's just like a loose leaf piece of paper, just randomly on it.
Yes, wow. I think it might have been even graph paper.
Interesting.
Was
there room for more after you?
TBD.
Well, the concerning thing is I wasn't the last name on the list.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. No, I was.
Anyway, the list went to 100.
Yeah. It was multiple. It was a booklet. It was an entire moleskin. It was a moleskin filled with foreskin, if you will. So I didn't like finding the list, I have to say. But look, I'm not going to front. Like now, I totally couldn't care if it's 1 or 100. But if it's 101, then fucking relax. But there was a time when I was, certainly more insecure and would be freaked out by a quote unquote high number, high body count. I mean, even it's like especially like when you're at your most insecure, when you're like, I was like 18, 19 when I had my first girlfriend, or especially starting a date. And even then, if you hear like, you're like, what's your number? And they're like 3. You're like 3. Oh my God! What the fuck? Like
you're
we
so
were just
experienced.
Born. We were just born yesterday. How have you had the time to plow through 3 men? But yeah, now I don't care. And I think actually the more sort of interesting thing is less like the body count number and just like if you have any interesting sexual experience that you feel are important to bring to the table, whether like I don't like this because of that, or this was an interesting, thing that happened to me, or this is a funny thing that happened to me. Well, I tried to find what is the average number of sexual partners for Americans, even though we're all Canadian.
Please say 4.
Okay, it's fucking I read basically 2 studies. When I say I read 2 studies, I didn't look through the methodology of them, but I just looked at them, and they both said that it's difficult to tell because, not surprisingly, men often increase their number and women often decrease their number. So one study said the average for men was 26 and the women was 19. But then another study said men 7, women 6. So those seem pretty fucking far apart to me. So I don't think anyone knows what anyone's doing, really.
I'm sure it has something to do
with... But I'd just like to say I'm above average, no matter what the number is. High fives all around.
I think that probably has to do with, like, I think geographically, if you're in, like, buttfuck nowhere, Montana, there's not that many people around. You're going to have a lower number.
But Norm, butt fucking does count, just so you know.
Okay.
It's all sexual.
Then I'm in the high 50s, yeah. I also like to imagine that your research on this topic was also on her desk, just loose paper. You found her sex list and the research on how many people is the average amount of sex. Top 10 parts of Matt's personality I hate. What could this list be? So Norm, usually I round up the number, the percentage, but I'm not going to this time because 69, nice, 0.8% of people say sharing your body count with your new partner is not good. Not good.
All right, so they're all saying it's not good, which, well, I guess I understand, but
sure,
loosen up.
Yeah,
let it fly. I wanted to take a moment to talk about my new favorite sports game, Stakes. Here's the problem. You're watching the NBA playoffs, you want to feel like you have some more skin in the game, you want to feel like you have something more on the line, but you don't want to lose money. That's where Stakes come in. Predict sports for free and play against a community of thousands of other fans to prove you know sports and build your sports reputation. With Stakes, you can compete against other sports enthusiasts by predicting daily questions and climbing the ranks to earn rewards, all without risking your bankroll. It's free to play, and the more accurate your predictions, the more you win. Here's how to do it. If you're in Canada or the US, open your phone, go to playwithstakes.com/isthisgood to download Stakes and start your journey to becoming a sports god. playwithstakes.com/isthisgood. All right, Norm, now it's time to look to the past and decide if things really used to be better in a new segment called Good Old Days. So the topics that I'm about to list have 2 criteria. Number 1, they were recently popular. Okay. And number 2, no one seems to talk about them anymore. So I'm not like going back to like a Walkman. Okay, that was too long. I'm trying to keep them pretty recent. And I basically want to know, did you think these things were good when they were popular? And has your opinion on them changed? So the first one, the video birthday message compilation. So this became popular during the pandemic. You'd get an email. It would be like, it would get an email from Norm's wife. She would say, it's Norm's birthday, and I'm sure he'd love to hear from all his family and friends. So if you could sit down and share a favorite memory or a hilarious time you spent with Norm, just sit in front of your computer, record it, upload it to the site, and he will just have a smile on his face as he's watching these back. So, definitely popular. Norm, did you think it was good at the time?
No, I hated it. I hate those things. They're so, well, I guess it's okay for like a older like grandma to watch like her nieces and nephews. Like that's fine. But I think if you're like an adult and you're like anywhere from 20 to 50, you're probably like, who cares about this bullshit? You know what I mean? Also, like, I'm not sure how many of these are from like pandemic era. Mm-hmm. Probably quite a few because but nothing from that time is good. Like even the stuff that we thought was good at the time, looking back on it now, like for example, like even like for comedic purposes, like any jokes about masks or Zoom like hangouts and stuff, boom. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's like it was what it was at the time. So like any video it reminds me of like a Cameo video. Like, you know, Cameo videos were popular for a hot second. Like, I think that's even stupid too. It's like, why do I want to get like, you know, I'm trying to think of
Carl
someone.
Weathers.
Yeah, to say happy birthday to me. Like, who fucking cares? So I'm going to say that is bad.
Yeah, I think I have to say that when they first came out, because of the pandemic, I thought, oh, well, this is nice. Like, if someone was having their 40th birthday, maybe they're going to feel lonely. People can't come over to their house. The problem was people were casting way too wide a net with them. Because if you were going to invite people over, you invited your actual friends, your close friends, your friends that lived in the same city as you. But because they didn't, now you're starting to get these messages from people you don't even know like that well, people you haven't seen in a while. And you're like, God damn, I don't have like what I remember in 1998. Well, you know, it's like you have to go like dig so deep for some of these people. And I'm like, this person, and you're their wife. Like, maybe you don't know that we don't really talk anymore. Like, it's not, this person's not going to feel joy seeing me pop up on the screen and be like, I don't even really talk to that.
Well, that's the issue. That's the issue. When it's an acquaintance and you cast the wide net, it kickstarts that relationship again in a weird way. And it takes a lot of work to go back to ignoring them like you used to, you know?
Oh, you know what, Norm, you just reminded me of something. A problem that I had with these was, and you might think this is petty, people weren't saying thank you. Don't you think it's rude? Like, I'm putting in like a lot of time to like think. I'm not saying I'm writing, but I'm like, I'm outlining. This is like an episode of Curb, okay? It's not fully written. I'm improvising based on a spine that I've created. Yeah. And I'm doing multiple takes. I'm not just doing the first one and it was like a shitty, the lighting sucks. Like, there was a weird thing in the background. I coughed 3 times. I'm retaking it and I'm uploading it. And then you never hear anything back. Like, did you even show him, Susan? Like, did you even show him this thing?
What did he think?
How many of these did you do?
Remark on how funny my story was.
You know, it reminds me of like self-tape auditions. You know what I mean? Like where it just kind of, you feel like they're going into a void and no one's actually like,
you don't even know if they're watching them.
And you're like, well, wait a minute, I bought a fucking ring light for this and I had to like set up a room and everything. And it's like, and first of all, at least with the self-tape audition, it's going to someone who can like at the end give you money. Am I going to do a full self-tape audition for my buddy fucking Andy? You know what I mean? Like, no, go to hell. Call me. You know what I mean? Anyway.
I have one suggestion if anyone ever asks you to do one of these. Okay, this is a serious suggestion. So I had a couple friends that got married during the pandemic. One was a destination wedding and a lot of people couldn't go. And another was where they just wanted to get married alone in Vegas. So in both cases, instead of sending very cool. So instead of sending like each our own little video, we all hopped on a Zoom, or like the close friends, so let's say like 8 to 10 people, we're all in one Zoom, all in the little boxes, and we just like each do like a 30-second like roast toast, and that way like the person can see everyone at once, can see other people laughing, like which brings up the energy of the whole piece, and it's just a more fun freewheeling thing. So that's and then you just record the Zoom and send that to them. That's my recommendation.
See, that's more like a reunion of sorts, though, too, where it's like nostalgic and it's also, you have to curate that guest list, too. Like, for example, when me and my wife got married in Vegas, too, we didn't want anybody there. There was a small amount of people. I think there was like 6 people there. And there was a lot of people who were upset. You know, some people got phone calls the morning of saying like, hey, we're doing this now, we're here. Just want to let you know before we go ahead and do it. That was a pretty small number, probably like our parents, 15 people. Then afterwards, we had a dinner. We invited like 15, 20 people to a big dinner, and it was a great time, and that was the end of it, No need for a bunch of people to send a bunch of video clips and someone editing it together as like some sort of tribute video. We don't need to do that. Maybe when I'm fucking long dead, someone can be like, hey, here's a compilation of people who thought Norm was a fucking dick. That would be kind of cool.
Okay, Norm, that's called a funeral. I think you're going to have one of those. You don't need the video compilation.
No, that's what I want, a funeral,
Okay, so let's move on to the next one. JD, I'm going to go to you first on this one because I think you're going to have an opinion.
Okay.
Standing desks. They were all the rage. All you would hear, standing desk this, standing, I got to move a stand, I got a standing desk. You don't really hear people talking much about them anymore. So did you think they were good when they were popular? And what do you think about them now?
I thought they were good when they were popular, and I still think they're good. And I think we don't hear about it anymore because all the people who wanted one got one. And that was the end of it, right? I have one. It's awesome.
Are you standing right now?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
But if I chose to, well, I'm not at it right now. I'm at the main table in the Classic Factory. But my table over there, it raises for when I'm doing the show because I like to be on my toes. I like to be mobile, and when I'm speaking.
In terms of comedy, you're literally on your toes.
I'm literally on my toes.
That's where the expression comes from.
Oh, yes. Well, there you go. But yeah, they're great. They're awesome. But you got to get the ones that go up and down because standing for 8 hours is ridiculous.
Well, that's why I feel like at first it was like before standing desks really existed, people were just like, I'm just creating a tall structure to stand at while I work. Then standing desks came out. Then it was like the hydraulic, you can put it up and down. And then it was just basically everyone left it in the down position and people stopped talking about it. Only, again, Norm, during the pandemic, remember the trend of the treadmill desk. There was like a walking treadmill. And people were using other standing desks. Another thing that you don't hear about anymore. With this last one, I think I might be stretching the definition of popular, but it's more just like this is the way it was. Then it changed. People don't seem to be talking about them anymore. Paper boarding passes when you're for a flight. Okay, I'll start on this one because I fucking hate having the boarding pass on my phone for so many reasons. You're worried about your phone dying. The thing, it always goes away because your lock screen comes up. So every time you need to show, you're like fumbling with it, make people wait in line. And the thing I hate the most is, why do I need my phone face down in like a pile of germs and constantly to be like kind of showing it, handing it off, placing it down, facing down, and then talking on it, touching it, putting my fingers in my mouth, in my nose, as one does on an airplane. So whenever I go to an airport, I go to the little computer terminal first, and I print out my boarding pass.
So you go to a kiosk and print it out before you board.
A kiosk is the word I was looking for. Thank you, Norm. And I print it out, and I don't show anyone my phone. But I feel like people are just like, nope, technology, it's always good. It's always progress. We love having it on our phone. Norm, where are you on this one?
I'm really torn on this one because I'm like, I see your points about having it on your, first of all, your phone is disgusting. It doesn't matter if there's a boarding pass on it or not. I think what I think is frustrating about the boarding pass on your phone is like you also need to have your ID and passport out anyway. So it's like, but also
that's all paper.
Can't they just like? I guess they need to check to physically make sure that you have like a seat on the flight. But like, how do they not know that? You know what I mean? Like, how are they not in the airline system anyway? Why do I need a piece of paper or my phone at all? One thing I was a little worried, like whenever I get the paper, it's like the paper is bad if you have connecting flights because then you have like a stack of paper and you don't know which one you're looking at. And then I'm like, for some reason, I'm worried about leaving it in the whatever pouch in the front. It's like someone's going to steal my identity by knowing what seat I was in on an American Airlines flight. I don't think so. I think that they're both bad. I think you should have neither. I think that the airline should just know that you have a ticket, and you should just have to.
So you want
you want facial recognition? They just know. There's Norm. He's in 13B.
Well,
he ordered a kosher meal for some reason.
I think you need a driver's license or a passport. I think that's all you should have to have.
Right.
Oh, so you're saying they scan that and then it pops up, or you want like those Amazon stores where you go in, you put stuff in your bag, and then you just walk right out, and somehow it knows where. Or like they have that at Staple or Crypto.com Arena, Norm. I don't know if you've been. There's a place to get beer where you just pick up the beer. the can of beer and a snack or whatever, and you just walk out.
Yeah, and like you can go with other people to walk in behind you, and they can just, if you tap with your card, even those other people, it's wild when you think about it. Eh? Like you go in with two other people, you tap your card, they come in behind you, they grab other shit and leave, and they still know that they were on my card. Isn't that bizarre?
I honestly don't like it. It's too good.
But that's what it's going to be anyway. So like the airport, if it's like this like hunkered down security bunker thing, they already scan you with a 3D scanner when you go through anyway. Like, how do they not know? Like, you have a passport, you have your driver's license. That makes sense to show people. But a loose leaf piece of paper with a seat number and who you've slept with on the back or whatever, like this is pointless. Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. All right, Norm, moving on. When people need help navigating life's biggest decisions, they seek our wise counsel, and we deliver an airtight verdict. This part's for the Patreon sickos only, my pea-hounds. To subscribe, go to patreon.com/isthisgood. You too can hear the full episode. It's time to settle this. All right, that was Settle This. To hear the full episode, go to patreon.com/isthisgood. Norm, there's only one thing left to do, and that's play Subjective Trivia. So Subjective Trivia is just like regular trivia, except only I know the answer. Today's question, based on, as we talked about off the top, never ever do this at home. You destroyed a lot of household shit. You ruined a lot of household shit.
Yep.
So today's question is, what would be the most fun appliance to see explode? So here are your options. Microwave, gas stove, toaster, fridge, or barbecue. So, ideally our answers align. I have my answer written on this card, so you know I'm not cheating. But go with your gut. Again, you can talk to JD if you want to, phone a friend. Microwave, gas stove, toaster, fridge, barbecue, which would be most fun to see explode?
So I've actually exploded a few of these already. And,
not to brag.
I made soup, and you don't have dishwasher in there, which is also I made soup in a dishwasher one. It's pretty good. I think the most fun is actually gas stove. But mostly it's because of the theatrics of it, because fire shoots from the top of it. The barbecue is just like a thinner, less. A barbecue is just a smaller like a stove you can move around. Right. A fridge is very bulky. Like I think we did something with a fridge where we put explosives in it. It's almost too heavy. It's like the doors kind of flying off is kind of cool, but the stove has that. The stove has a door that can fucking fly off too, right? And what's the other one? Toaster. Listen, I blew up a ton of toasters. It's not that great.
What's your appliance count?
Oh, dude, it's fucking. I'm a slut when it comes to appliances. I'm gonna say for the theatrics and for having a lot of the elements that the other items already have, i.e., a door and a lot of moving parts. I'm gonna go ahead and say gas stove.
Okay, JD, do you agree?
I agree that that's probably the most fun, but I think that you're going to say fridge because
interesting.
It's just for the exact reasons that Norm said. It's really big and bulky, and if you pack it with enough explosives, I think it would be spectacular. Plus, you could fill it up with food and stuff. It would be fun to see all that food flying everywhere. So I'm going to say fridge.
Well, I think you both had great answers, and call me a basic bitch, but I've had a fantasy from action movies of our youth. like specifically Steven Seagal movies, specifically Under Siege, where he's on the boat and he's a chef, if you remember. Mm-hmm. And it always seemed like maybe also a MacGyver thing or a Bruce Willis thing. They would put a concoction into a microwave oven and then set it, and then you would hear it like ticking and it'd go like beep, 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 and then it would just boom, explode, and then he would just go like slash people's throats and stuff like that. Yeah. So my answer is microwave. I'm sorry to be so boring. This is the missionary. I got a low body again. This is the missionary of exploding appliances. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Gas
stove has the same deal. You put a timer on it. Anyway, yeah. Microwave.
Nor's like, you fucking idiot. Well, I'm glad we did it at the end of the show because Norm's about to walk off.
How dare you?
Disgusted.
He's disgusted. Norm, tell people where they can find you.
I'm on. I'm thinking about leaving a lot of social stuff. I know a lot of people are like, I'm on Twitter, but I don't really participate anymore. But if you want to see the stuff that I do on Fox on the football show, you can probably find most of it on my Instagram, which is just Norm Sousa, my name.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing that, by the way? Like, maybe briefly explain what it is you're doing there at Fox.
Well, it's really funny. I worked on when Jay and Dan, any Canadian listeners will probably know, they were in the U.S. for a bit. That's where I started there, and then they brought me on to the football team, to like the NFL production team. I was freelance for a long time. I was producing Cousin Sal, Jimmy Kimmel's Cousin Sal. I was doing his picks segment on Thursdays, and then I started doing the sketches on the Sunday afternoon show, and that's basically what I do now. I'm just like they give me a minute, they give me 50 seconds, and I get to write I have a sketch comedy background, so I get to write a sketch and put it on TV every week during the football season. So that's basically what I do.
Yeah, definitely go to Norm's Insta to check that out. Remember to check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/isthisgood. If you have topics, email us at isthisgoodpod@gmail.com. You can always use questions and topic suggestions. Rate us on Apple Podcasts. It's always nice to read those. And subscribe on YouTube. Thanks for listening. Thanks to JD. Thanks to Norm for coming on. Thanks in advance for leaving a 5-star review.
Yes.
For everyone, I'm Matt Austin, and this was good. We'll see you next week.